Yeshiva World.
I wasn't going to talk about this, but one of the chevra was Meir that maybe it's Kedai, and I was thinking about that he's right. We use this time usually to learn Zohar Kodesh for 10-15 minutes, but maybe what I'm going to say now is a summary of the entire Zohar Kodesh. Of the entire Zohar Kodesh with the Tikkunim and the Zohar Kodesh, Metalis, the whole Zohar, to try to summarize in 5-10 minutes to summarize. There was after the Maisa happened on Shabbos, we heard about Motzei Shabbos, we heard what happened in Pittsburgh, to our brothers and sisters there, so there was the unbelievable heartbreak of hearing that terrible news, just like we feel in Yisrael, and things like this happen, we're heartbroken. And then there was this little thing inside of my head that went off and said, after a few hours, I was thinking, late Motzei Shabbos, I hope nobody is going to start twisting this in the wrong direction. And sure enough, there was an obscene, a vile clip of some rabbi going around yesterday, and I understand there's more than one, but one that was circulating, a number of Bachrim sent it to me, and some Balabatim sent it to me, and I could only listen to it for a minute, or I couldn't listen to such obscenity. And it was what I was most worried about. I only thought there was going to be, well, these are conservative Jews, they were davening a conservative temple, so that was one thing I was worried about. But then when it was Mizgala that it was also that there was an Indian there of two men that adopted a child, and that was the day that they were making the bris. This is what I was told in the temple. So that would give ammunition to the Chachamim from the Erev Rav. That's a compliment from the Sitra Achra Mamish, to start already talking about how, well, it's the Dar Mabul, these are people from the Mabul, these are people Machal Shabbos, they daven in a conservative temple, this is an union of men with men, and therefore, what do they expect? This is something that was coming to them. This is a warning to the Jewish people. This person said, there was a 97-year-old Jew that was just present there. So his fault, and the reason that he was killed according to this rabbi, is because he was present there. That he was present at a conservative temple on Shabbos when something that was obviously very inappropriate was taking place in terms of this type of an Indian of a man with a man and so on. And this is the conclusion that was reached by this rabbi. And of course he said that he can't be two-faced, he has to be honest, because he's the representative of Hashem and the Jewish people. He even called this talk that he gave a State of the Union address. That's what he called it. And it was, aside from the teichen that was very perverse, the tone was dripping with gaiva and with Sinas Yisrael, and it was something which needs to be deleted from the history of Am Yisrael. But to the Mizach, to the Indian, I'm not going into the Shitas HaPaiskim regarding the status of Jews who are killed because they're Jews. This is something which has been discussed many times. And I'm a child of survivors, and I think that anybody here that has any sensitivity and still has a Jewish heart beating inside understands that the conversation ends when Jews are killed because they're Jews. That's when the conversation ends. You could talk about different shitas in the poskim, but again, there's a hergish, there's a chush that a Jew has, that at that point we don't discuss anymore whether they're Shomer Shabbos or Machal Shabbos. These are people who, to begin with, are Tinokish and Nishbu. What do they know? They were raised with Torah, they were raised with Halacha, they don't know. All of these Jews, they still have a feeling of being Jews, that they want to come to daven, that they want to make a bris. They don't know anything, they weren't taught. And who were the Jews that were killed from the 6 million? They were all tzaddik and Rosh Hashivas and Rebbitzins that everybody calls Kedoshim, including probably that rabbi calls them also Kedoshim. There were So many of them were people that were going to church on Sunday, that didn't see themselves as being Jews b'chlal, and came from a world that was also, some of them came from yeshivas, and some of them came to Negesh and Ish. But you know, one of the most mysterious words in halacha is ki'ilu. It's a hard word, ki'ilu. How do you translate ki'ilu? As if. So we're learning Even HaEzer. We learned the first simon. There's a Chachma Shloime says a chiddush based upon the Gemara in Megillah Daf Yud Gimel. But the Gemara says that a Magadli Yosem Yisayim B'Tzech Beso is ki'ilu yolda, right? Ki'ilu yolda. If you raise an orphan in your house, it's ki'ilu you gave birth to the child. So the shaila is, Rebbe, what do you mean by that ki'ilu? Does ki'ilu mean that you mekayim the mitzvah of puruvu? Right? It's ki'ilu when you raise an orphan in your home. It's ki'ilu you gave birth to the child. So what is that ki'ilu? How far does that go? So the Chachma Shlomo says a chiddush that he holds that it's the mitzvah of puruvu, that it's like mamish having a child. That ki'ilu is very, very strong. There are many who disagree with that. There's a machlokas a poskim in general, Taz and Drisha, and all the poskim are divided into two camps. In general, that's a machlokes in Yehudeya. In general, what does that mean, ki'ilu? Chashvalas mitzvah, you wanted to do a mitzvah and you couldn't do it. Malol because of ki'ilu, it's as if you did the mitzvah. On the other hand, there's a sugya of mitzvah by yoisem b'shluchai, that when you have an opportunity to do something yourself, then ki'ilu is not the best, it's second best. Well, there's a tzaddik after whom our shul is named, who I feel ki'ilu is alive. You can take that and learn it any way you want. Ki'ilu is alive. And his portrait is in the hallway when you walk in, and his stamp is upon everything in the Vis Medrash here in Eish Kodesh. And that tzaddik lived through the worst of times. He wasn't the rabbi making speeches, you understand? He lived through the worst of times. And he knew all kinds of Jews. And the pact that he made at the end of his life, not to leave other Jews, but they'll go together wherever they are. He maybe one other of those were Jews that were Shomer Mitzvahs. But it was a pact that he made. So he has a Torah regarding the Akedes Yitzchak that I think that most of you know. And if you don't, it's definitely important to look at it. You know, Chazal tell us that the Efer, the ashes of the Akedes Yitzchak is ki'ilu. It's munach al gabi mizbech. We spoke yesterday about Yitzchak is Kates Chai, the end and still being alive. So the Piazetznes Chusi says a very big chiddush. I'm not going to elaborate on it now. I'm expecting everybody to learn it when you can. We could talk about it a different time. But the Piazetznes said that Akedes Yitzchak took place in such a way where Yitzchak Avinu had all of the Ratzon in the world. And we can't be Masik Yitzchak Avinu's Ratzon. It's the Koich of Gevura. He's the Merkava of Gevura. And all he wanted in the world was that he should be able to die Al Kiddush Hashem. He had all of the Ratzon to die Al Kiddush Hashem. Didn't happen. When I say it didn't happen. Al Tishtach Yadchel and Harav Taslam It didn't happen. He wasn't killed. But the Ratzon was Gevaldik. The Ratzon is Gevaldik. The Ki'ilu is Gevaldik. Aked Ekach, that in some ways is looked, we see it like he didn't get off the Akedah, and the ashes are on the Mizbeach, and we still daven the whole davening, Rosh Hashanah was all for these ashes. But L'maisa, he lived. It looked like he was dying, Kate, but Chai, he lived. The Rebbe said that the Kiddush Hashem that took place during the Holocaust, during the Milchama, was the opposite. The Jews who were killed during the Holocaust didn't want to die. In other words, they didn't have their Ratzon. They didn't have their Ratzon. Any one of them would have preferred living. They didn't want to die. They wanted to live in the Holocaust. And many of them are screaming, I don't want to die. I don't have any union with being a Jew. Right? The Ratzon was not there. But the Poil, not Ki'ilu, L'maisa, they were killed because they were Jews. So the Rebbe said that the Akedes Yitzchak is not an event that just happened one time. It's an ongoing process throughout history. The Ratzon began with Yitzchak Avinu, the will that a Jew has deep within himself, even though he might not know it, that every Jew has woven into the fabric of his being, like the Tanya explains in Yutes and Chav, Yuches, Yutes, Yuchav, that's woven into the essence of his being, to give up his life to be a Jew, never to renounce his being a Jew. So Yitzchak Avinu was on fire with that Ratzon, but partly didn't carry it out. But every single Jew throughout time was killed because he's a Jew, even if he says, I don't want to die, I don't want to go, I don't care, I'm not into this. But when that Jew is killed because he's a Jew, so the Rebbe said that that's the completion of Akedas Yitzchak. Yitzchak was the one who had Ratzon but didn't die. And there are other Jews who died and didn't have such a Ratzon. And it's all one Metzias, one Chefetz of Kiddush Hashem. And that's why Yitzchak Avinu is at the end of time. The Gemara says in Shabbos is the one who's going to say, Palgalai, Palgalach, that he's going to be the one to defend the Jewish people at the end of time, no matter what a Jew was, no matter where he came from. Bonim atam l'Hashem l'keichem, bonim afilu mashchisim, afilu mashchisim, bonim atam l'Hashem l'keichem. And the Rashba says we pass in the Rav Meir, Akash. So it's important for us to know that that's really what the Zohar Kodesh is all about. And when a person is talking from a place of pnimius, when a person is talking from a place where he saw Jews the way that the Eish Kodesh saw Jews, and he lived through a time of Kiddush Hashem, and he understood that just because a person is acting a certain way doesn't mean that that's the etzem of who he is. And certainly when we're talking about these Jews in this shul in Pittsburgh, that who were they, how were they raised? The Metzias is that they were killed because they were Jews. The murderer didn't hide that. That was his whole tachlis of going into that place. So how dare any person standing up, whether it's in the Five Towns or Great Neck or Borough Park or Yerushalayim for that matter, to stand up and to say that no, these are people from the Mabul, these are people who are Machal Shabbos and Mishkav Zocher v'chulu v'chulu. So let that be a warning to the Jewish people. Let that be a warning to all Jews. Hashem should forgive this person or these people for talking that way. And we should be Zocher Bez Hashem to see that the Nakam will be taken against any single person throughout time, whoever lifted a finger to spill one drop of blood from Zerah Avram and from Zerah Yitzchak and from Zerah Yaakov. We should be Zocher to see Tchias HaMeisim B'Hem Yaminu Amen V'Amen. And you can send that to anybody you want, including the rabbi.